Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast without banners. This time we're talking about the season 7 finale, episode 7, The Wolf and the Dragon, or The Dragon and the Wolf. I forget what order that's in. But in any case, I am joined once again by Maeve Bill and Bill Sylvia.
Hi.
Hello.
And unlike last week where I was like, oh, I'm going to stop doing summaries, and then I did a summary anyway. In this case, there's that much kind of stuff to recap that, you know, ultimately a summary would take too long, so dot points. Littlefinger dies, the wall is destroyed, and we have confirmed that the gold company are coming over, and Cersei
I thought
basically
you were going to
plans
say we
to
confirmed that the baby was real.
yeah.
Yeah, that
um
too.
yeah. Cersei is apparently actually pregnant. So yeah, Littlefinger dies, the wall goes down. Cersei is apparently actually pregnant. Um, Jaime has abandoned her seemingly, and yeah, the Gold Company will be showing up next season. As far as the dot points of that go. So even though it's probably the bulkiest part of the episode, we are not entirely an insane amount of ramifications in it necessarily compared to some other stuff that happens. So we're going to just talk about what happened in King's Landing and also the tiny bit that happened on Dragonstone after the fact. And we will start with Maeve.
Okay. So we start and we see everyone gathering. I remember thinking, oh god, Cersei wouldn't have summoned everyone. This is probably a trap. So I was surprised when it wasn't.
Mm.
Um,
Probably because she was surrounded by Dothraki and Sully.
yeah,
Mm.
probably had something to do with it. Um, and just as a sort of side note, I absolutely loved Cersei's line after Daenerys makes her huge grand entrance, which, by the way, is this was first time seeing dragons, so she should be at least a little phased, and she isn't.
Mm.
Daenerys takes her seat, and she's like, we've been waiting for quite some time. Oh man, I
So
cackled for a good minute there.
you're saying that Cersei didn't seem phased enough by the dragons? Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did. And I noticed when I rewatched it that it looked like she was kind of making a conscious effort, like she wanted to get up and run like everybody else, but she needed to project that in charge,
Mm.
impression. So she
The
kind of
attitude.
stayed there.
Yeah.
You might be
Whereas
right
whereas she actually does lose her cool when the white is like
with the
a
white.
foot away from her.
Mm.
Yeah, I know. I
If the
loved
dragon
that
came
scene with
that
the white.
close to her, she would actually have lost her cool.
Yeah.
You're probably right. But yeah, no. So they all had their conversations. I remember being kind of let down that the big interaction between um the Hound and the Mountain was, you're uglier than I am now. What the fuck did Daisy do to you? Um, which is
Yes.
funny, and it's sort of an anticlimactic thing. But everyone was going on about this big Clegane bowl, and
Mm.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't
I
get a
think this
close.
was just a teaser. I think the idea is they're still going to fight in the future.
Yeah, like I just took that as like them referencing as it kind of being a meta reference to Clegane Bowl.
Oh, fair enough. Like I think you might have still been rowing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And as far as the actual, negotiations, I was surprised at first when Cersei was like, "Okay, yeah, no, that's some scary shit, man. I'm with ya, but only if um,
Right.
you know, Jon Snow, doesn't back up Daenerys, and he's like, he makes the same mistake that Ned has and Rob has, and says, "I'm choosing my honor over my safety," which the Starks have a history of doing and dying for it.
Yeah.
But he recognized that because when he was having that conversation with Daenerys, he was like, "Yeah, I've realized that. Don't tell me that my father died for the same mistakes or whatnot." He stood by it, which on one hand I can admire, but I'm glad that everyone's like, "Well, I admire you for it, but it was still stupid."
Yeah.
And holy shit, I thought Cersei was pulling that baby out of her ass. I did not think that was a
Yeah.
real child.
For
So
real.
my partner was right, so I have to give that to him. We had bets with imaginary money going on there. I was certain Cersei was not pregnant. Yeah. So it was nice seeing Tyrion. Sorry.
Yeah, it wasn't until Tyrion said something that I was really like, "Oh shit, you mean she's not lying?"
Yeah, no, and that's where I
if
went.
anyone can recognize when Cersei's lying, it's him.
It's Tyrion.
Yeah.
So yeah, they negotiate a little off screen, but before that happens, Tyrion's like egging her on to kill him, and I'm like, this season they've been so scared to kill anyone off, yet I was still scared that might happen.
The plot armor is intense. You must have bought the highest level plot armor with that Lannister gold.
You probably did. So that happened. Are we doing everything in King's Landing in one foul swoop, or are we splitting it into two parts?
Yeah, everything that happened and the tiny bit in Dragonstone, if you have anything to say about it.
So the last thing for King's Landing I will say is when I liked the echo of that scene with Jamie, where he's also like, are you gonna tell? Because he chooses to do the honorable thing and follow his oath, and, because if the dead win, they all die. If the living win, they still all die. So he decides to do that, and he's like, "Oh, are you gonna tell him to kill me?" And I was more scared for Jamie than I actually was for Tyrion. I remember my jaw dropped and I was like, "Oh my god, this could actually happen." And because his betrayal would hurt so much more than anything Tyrion did.
Yeah.
In Cersei's mind. But he takes off, and I don't know where this is gonna go, but I'm so happy that Jamie's finally fed up with Cersei's shit. And this part, I think that's actually everything I have to say.
Okay, Bill?
Okay. So yeah, this scene took up I think the first 45 minutes of the episode or so. It was definitely, definitely a lot of reunions. We had Pod and Bronn, Pod and Tyrion, Tyrion and Bronn. Well, they had already sort of met, but they kind of had more of a reunion talk here because I don't think they talked in the previous episode. I've decided that Bree Hound is my new ship because I was never quite happy. I was never quite happy with Tormund and Brienne or with Jamie and Brienne, but I think they were perfect together here.
Yes.
I think they want to adopt the girls at Winterfell and stay on as their new parents.
They would be better than any other adults other than their actual parents that they've had to care for them.
Yeah, the Hound and the Mountain, it was, I think, more of a teaser than anything. And as we see with some of Cersei's decisions here, clearly everyone's going to fight again. So I think we're going to get another fight, maybe back in King's Landing, maybe somewhere else, but two of those. What else is is worth mentioning that you didn't yet. I didn't think Euron had it in him to, if Cersei's telling the truth and he was acting and not just saying the first thing that came to mind, that seems surprising because his thing seems to be saying the first thing that comes to mind, unless that's all an act.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could
It-
be half and half. He could have like legit meant it, and the idea would be that he just takes Cersei to the Iron Islands or just generally off of Westeros
Mhm.
until the whole thing blows over.
Oh, and I like Qyburn's reluctantly handing the hand back to John, like, I want this.
Yeah.
I need to keep this.
Yeah.
It was nice
Don't
to
trade
see,
science monster another day.
right?
Mm,
It was nice to see, the three monarchs with their three hands and
mm,
advisors all in one room for the first time. We never got something like that in the War of Five Kings, so that was cool.
mm.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I don't know why Tyrion was like, I don't plan to be murdered, this and that, and he comes in, he's like, why aren't you murdering me? Like, Tyrion,
Yeah.
no other character in this show could get away with those words coming out of their mouth and still leave with their head.
Mm.
Why are you leaving with your head?
Yeah.
Um, and then moving on to the scene with Jaime. Yeah, it was kind of a little bit of a mirror of the scene with Tyrion and a little bit of a mirror of the scenes with John. The choosing the oath over loyalty and such, which
Mm,
of course was partially inspired by Brienne's goading him.
mm.
Um, but other than that, nothing really unique to say about that. I'm not sure who he's going to run into and where, and what the how they're going to react to him if it's not Tyrion.
Mm.
So that'll be something to see in season 8.
Yeah. Um, as far as my thoughts go, I actually like when the Hound opened the crate and nothing happened. I almost thought it was going to be a thing of like somehow, um, like the
The
magic
Night
that
King
was,
was trolling them.
like that, yeah, like that or that, yeah, like either the power had been taken out of it, so it just became a corpse, and he was going to kick it over, and
Mm.
just the bones would have fallen out, and that was it. Um, and it would have been like, oh shit. But as soon as he kicked it
And see,
over and it went running for Cersei, I was like, okay, there we go.
and see, if John was the only one who planned this, I wouldn't be shocked by that. But
Mm.
Tyrion would have been like, wait a second, let's pull this thing out of the box before we go any farther. See if it needs batteries.
Yeah. Um, and the funny thing is, when it's running for, I was actually surprised that everyone was just like, no one was doing anything, and it took the Hound grabbing the chain and yanking on it for it to, for it to stop. Like, not even the mountain did anything. That was really weird.
Right.
Mm.
Um, uh, and also kind of like the, oh god, what was it? Oh god, there was a specific bit in that. I do like the fact that they have Euron have a go at Tyrion, and then Tyrion's immediately like, "Oh, come on, we made a deal that no one would make dwarf jokes. What the hell?"
That one was
Oh no, well no,
good.
it was a reference to when he told Theon that everyone who makes a dwarf joke thinks they're the first one to ever make a dwarf joke, and they're really
Mm,
never as funny as the person talking thinks.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, like
That was
even
the scene that was you referenced when he's like, remember our conversation about them.
mm, well, like well, going by how Cersei reacted, I thought that was the case. But then, of course, you have Bronn chiming in with the fact that it wasn't even a good joke.
I thought
um,
Theon said that
I think it was
I
Bronn.
thought it was Braun.
because
Yeah.
I thought Bronn and Pod were off getting drunk.
Uh, well, yeah, like it might have been Theon then. It's generally it was. Yeah, God, that muddled with it that it actually might have been. unless that was just a continuity error. And it was Bronn, but he wasn't supposed to be there. I don't know. I almost admit like when they did have that bit though. Now that you mention it, where Bronn was taking Pot off to have a drink, I almost thought it was like, okay, shit is probably gonna go down. And like
Mm.
Bronn likes Pot enough that he was like, I want to get this kid out of here just in case any shit does go down. But
It's like if we see fire, two of us are gone.
yeah. um, but like when it comes to the sit down between Cersei and Tyrion, I honestly think, and I'm surprised they didn't have Cersei. Like, I guess it didn't ultimately carry, but I took Tyrion like goading her to killing him as him wanting a way out. Because he was like, he knows that either way he's probably fucked.
Mm.
He's either gonna die in, like, he's either gonna get killed by the whites or the White Walkers, or he's probably gonna die in the conflict between Dany and Cersei. So he's just like, you know what, fuck it, just get it over with. Um, like obviously a big like gasp of relief when she doesn't go through with it. And he'd probably be a hell of a lot more shocked than anyone else that she didn't go for it. But I also think it's because that would just be too easy. Like she wouldn't have taken that route of just having um the mountain crush his skull or cut his head off or whatever. Like if she's gonna do it, she's gonna torture the absolute fuck out of him. She's not gonna give him the dignity of a quick death.
Mm.
So she's like, no, 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 I've got plans for you. You'll have to wait. Um, and I did actually like with the bit with Jamie. I actually did think, oh shit, he's gone. um, but the fact that he's now buggered off, I actually think we're going into, like, there's people kind of going on about, and Tyrion's always worried about Dany turning into the Mad Queen. Pretty sure they're going to go that route with Cersei now, because the
Cersei.
only moral compass she had left was that she wasn't even really listening too much anymore anyway, was Jamie. So now that he's buggered off, probably headed north,
Right.
for all we know, well, he's generally like, yeah, he's either, if he hasn't gone north, he's gone south, but God knows what he'd find there, unless he wants to make Dawn relevant again. um, which, my God, that would actually be kind of interesting, but I doubt it. He's like the fact that, yeah, she's got absolutely no one who's gonna, like, now she's basically just surrounded by yes men. So she's just gonna do whatever the
Yeah.
fuck she wants, and she's gonna lose her shit. She's gonna
Yeah,
go insane.
especially since Tywin died, she's been systematically removing anybody who would speak out against anything said.
Yeah. Um, and it's actually interesting that they don't talk about having gone down to Dawn to try and make them pledge allegiance to the crown again after the shit um they pulled. You would think that they'd be like, okay, now we should probably, while they're occupied up there, we can go and actually, secure Dawn properly and bring whatever forces they have into the fold. There was like no talk of that whatsoever. So I guess they're just leaving Dawn alone. um, which seems like a bad idea, but I guess from the show's perspective, Dawn's probably out of play for the rest of the show now. So, um, yeah, I and the other thing that occurred to me that kind of leads into something that we're talking about later, but I'll just bring it up now while I'm thinking of it. Euron has gone to Essos, so that means that the Iron Islands aren't being guarded anymore. Or at least they wouldn't have as many people there.
Hmm.
So Theon and his little band of guys probably actually stand a chance once they get there. um, yeah, I think that's all I have for that. So from there, we will move on to what happened at Winterfell, and we will start with Bill.
Winterfell. So we had one long scene and one short. And the long one definitely is one we've been speculating about for weeks. And actually, there are two scenes here, but I forget if they're back to back in the episode, but they're heavily related to one another either.
Mm.
Hmm.
And the funny thing is, it's still kind of open to interpretation, because it's extremely valid to believe that Sansa is, I mean, not entirely trusting, but still believing that that Arya is the threat and Littlefinger is helping her,
Mm.
until reaching the point where Littlefinger suggests that Arya wants to be the Lady of Winterfell. And at that point, it
Mm.
kind of pauses as Sansa's just looking there, thinking, and kind of realizing or putting connections together. And
Mm.
at that point, if she didn't know, if she didn't know that it was 100% his scheme, that's when she figured everything out, because she knew that Arya never wanted that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, that coupled with whatever she had already figured out for her to finally put together that plan.
Mm.
I'm not sure if Arya knew before that big meeting in the Great Hall what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about that.
Mm.
And that's one of the things about television versus books. You can keep it as ambiguous as possible and it'll still work. In the
Mm.
books, you would have had to see somebody's point of view and you would have seen a little bit more of what they were thinking.
Yeah.
Altogether, when moving on to the execution itself, I think it went well. My only criticism is that I wish Littlefinger died thinking it was his moment of triumph. Like, um, you know, early Game of Thrones loved to have major scenes like this at weddings.
Mm.
Imagine if he thought he was getting married to Sansa and that he was about to become the Lord of Winterfell and instrumental in defeating, the traitor Jon Snow. And she's like, "Oh, and by the way, you're going to be dead in about 5 seconds." That would have been the way, I think, the way to go for a character like Littlefinger.
Mm.
Also, since when is he Lord Protector of the Vale? I thought he was only Regent Protector until Lord Protector came of age. Or is he just
I
kind of
mean, it is
taking
Littlefinger,
the
so.
title?
Mm.
Yeah, I think, or is this a case of him just taking the title because no one's going to quibble technicalities with him?
I'd say so, but I guess technically it'd be a case of because he's the male and he married specifically because he married Liza is probably why he's getting away with it. Um,
Okay.
uh, because he would have become Lord of the Vale then, and the idea being, um, like I don't know. I guess it depends. Whether because I mean they were referring to the kid as like the Lord of the Vale anyway.
Right.
So I guess it kind of depends because
And I think
um
that's partially because Liza was, she was a Tully. I mean, she had the name Aaron, but she wasn't
mm,
from the Vale.
yeah.
Marrying her, I think, in their eyes, unless somebody truly deserved it and could be seen as a great leader, wouldn't necessarily earn him that respect.
Mm,
Yeah.
And the funny thing is he didn't bank on the fact that they were only loyal to him because of Sansa. Like, that's the
Yeah.
only connection that they gave a shit about. So, yeah. When that fell through, he was fucked.
And even if it wasn't, when they found out, and I think this was meant. Well, I'm not sure if this was mentioned on screen or by people commenting, but as soon as they found out that there was even a chance he had something to do with John Aaron's death, all bets are off. He's not getting
Yes.
anything out of Waymar
Yeah.
Royce.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the final scene at Winterfell. Is it just me, or was Bran a little less wooden when Samuel showed up?
Yeah, he
Like
was
Yeah.
he
like, he
almost
was.
seemed to be talking. He almost seemed to be talking like a normal person.
He actually seemed genuinely happy to see Sam.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Um.
Who was a human being.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, is talking about the Winterfell part of this scene and talking about the boat part of this scene at the same time, because
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
all cut together.
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I absolutely was not expecting. Like I knew that Daenerys and Jon were going to hook up. I knew that, eventually someone was going to put two and two together, the wedding plus the vision, and realize that Jon was a Targaryen.
Mm.
I did not expect the sex scene to be narrated over by the reveal of him being a
yeah,
Targaryen.
yeah.
Like, that was completely unique and unexpected.
Mm.
Um,
Oh.
but yeah, that, and of course that opens a whole host of, okay, what of questions of what happens next in terms of that knowledge reaching the two of them, and how much it's going to matter, and at what point, in what ways it's going to matter, and all that.
Mm.
But yeah, I was shocked when I realized that they were narrating over that scene with the information. I was like, damn, like, that's hardcore.
yeah.
Oh, and that's right. One comment I almost forgot to make that I made on Twitter as soon as I watched the episode. I guess Game of Thrones is a lot like the real world. Woman makes discovery, man takes credit for it. I kind of hope that when they tell John Gilly is the one, oh, I'm the one who read that.
yeah. Especially because she would stand up for herself in that kind of a thing, so she would like
Mm-hmm.
punch him or something and be like, "Hey, I found that."
Right.
Or
I
at least,
think that's the end of my Winterfell comments.
okay, Maeve.
um, I kind of follow along a lot of the lines. I was very happy to see um Littlefinger's comeuppance. Uh, Especially the way they handled it. I liked the sort of switcheroo that she and Arya did. I actually think that Arya knew
Mm.
that that's why she was summoned, and that she was playing along with the, I do it honor binds me to do, and my sister asked you
Mm-hmm.
a question. It felt like she was in the know.
Yeah.
If she
If,
wasn't, she's
if
very good at thinking on her feet.
Right. I mean, if she wasn't in the know, then she very quickly picked up the cues and knew exactly what to do. But
Yeah,
I'm not as certain that she knew, like, that she knew when she was being called in. I think when murder was brought up, I think at that point she probably knew, because she hadn't murdered anybody that Sansa would give a crap about.
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so it was nice. It was also nice that not nice. It was nice seeing some man get his throat slit. Jeez, I think I need therapy. I liked that it was done with the knife that he tried to murder Bran with via
Yeah.
a cat's paw.
Mm.
So that was cool, and I like that everything was laid bare. Um, it was pretty powerful. Uh, and the Starks sort of reuniting, especially the sisters, going, repeating exactly what Ned said in his last conversation with the two of them together in the same room about the pack surviving. So that was also really powerful. And the Sam Bran scene, I agree, he seemed much less wooden. Like he seemed like a real person. Oh, did you have a vision of that? No, and he shows the little scroll.
Yeah.
He felt like a real boy instead of Pinocchio. There was something else I wanted to say, but I forget it, so I'm gonna say oh yeah, no, the voiceover. I too was a little, oh wow. They're gonna talk about how John is actually the legitimate heir to the throne and related to Danny. Well, they're having sex. Game of Thrones, everyone. It's
Right.
one step above the twincest, so it's all good. And they lingered on Tyrion. The camera did a lot when he
Yeah.
saw. So I don't know if he's gonna figure something out or what's gonna go on there.
Some people are speculating that because of Cersei being pregnant, he's planning some sort of betrayal, and that in his scene is him like, you know, like feeling terrible about it. I don't know how much I agree with that theory,
Mm,
but in any of the explanations I've heard, it just seems all seem just far fetched enough that it's weird that he's standing outside the door watching
Yeah.
or listening.
mm.
Yeah. It could even just be that that he's like, oh crap, are you like this could necessarily backfire that they're getting involved or something like that. So was that all you had, Maeve?
Yeah, no, that's all I have for the Winterfell.
Okay. Into mine. I'm so glad. Like, this is the difference between like Game of Thrones and a lot of other shows. I like the fact that the reveal of the fact that they were actually screwing over Littlefinger had no music until right near the end of the scene. Like, if this is like any other show, there would have been a dramatic sting when
Dun,
Littlefinger
dun!
realized, yeah, when Littlefinger realized what was going on. And I actually kind of love how subtle his reaction was. You
Yes.
see his eyes bulge out for a second, and then he looks around the room and he's like, "Wait, what's going on?"
I- He would.
Like,
I think he wouldn't have lived as long as he did if he wasn't a man of very subtle reaction.
Yes.
true. Um, but yeah, and I actually like that it did get to the point where he is like, as he would be, trying to talk his way out of the situation that ultimately it's only when he starts to beg that he realizes that there's no way out of this. Like, he's not going to
Yeah.
talk his way out of this.
It's, it was when
Um,
Bran opened his mouth that he realized that he was fucked.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, and just um, the whole thing of, I was like, it's funny because I knew that I even remember in a previous podcast I was like, Arya would go for the throat. And lo and behold,
Yes.
with the dagger, she gets him right in the.
Mhm.
And she did that quick too. She didn't like grab him by the
Yeah.
head and cut it. She just like walks up to him like it's nothing. Yep, there you go, done. I almost thought she jabbed him in the throat with it, but no, she just did like a really quick slash across the throat.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
almost
What
half.
was it? Was it a one movement slash and holster?
I think so.
I
I'm
think
not
it might have
entirely
been.
No?
sure. Yeah, I'd have to rewatch it, but I think she might have like if she didn't, she would have like cleaned it off really quick and then uh put it back. But I almost, the only regret that I have of that scene was it would have been kind of funny, but like only because it's funny as I can see why they didn't do it. But it would have been funny if she was like after they hold on his corpse for a bit, she's like, okay, can you get his corpse out of here, please? It's like the blood's gonna stain the floor. Can someone do something about that? Which I do kind of wonder what they're gonna do with his body. Like, are they gonna just get rid of it? Like, oh my god, what if Arya takes his face? Holy shit, that'd be
But
interesting
what's
if
she
they.
gonna do with his face?
Right.
Well, yeah, well,
He
I
has no
mean,
power anymore.
Um,
not in the
unless,
North, no,
unless,
but as
unless,
far as we knew, he was still in cahoots with, possibly still in
unless,
cahoots with Cersei. So,
unless Sansa wants Robin dead
mm,
because Robin trusts Littlefinger,
mm.
so that would be a good way to get in close.
Hmm.
I don't think there'd
And
be
then
any.
out the moon door you go.
um, yeah, like actually, like I'll put it this way: if she kill, if Arya somehow is the one to kill Cersei, then that could be a way to do it. Um, sneak up to her as Littlefinger somehow, or like
Oh,
sneak up and then turn into Littlefinger and then cut her throat or something.
what
Um,
one scene that I think would be really cool to do involving Littlefinger's face is if she gave a chance for one last Littlefinger Varys conversation, and at some point, like halfway through the conversations, Varys is like, "I know you're not Lord Baelish. He died at Winterfell." She's just like, "You got me."
Well, I mean, Varys is on his way there, as far as we know. So,
Right. Especially
um,
since I don't know. I don't think this is made clear in the show whether it happens or not, but in the books, it's strongly suggested that the masks kind of infuse you with the memories and history of the person whose face you're wearing. So she
Hmm.
would have all of Littlefinger's memories and mannerisms, in
mm.
that sort of
Well,
situation.
that would suddenly make the destruction of House Tully make a hell of a lot more sense because she knew intimate detail about what happened when she was only seeing it from the outside. Um,
Right.
so the fact that she was able to recount stuff in
Oh yeah,
great detail.
because when she ran into the Hound, all she knew was all the Starks are dead. She didn't know who was stabbed and who had their throat slit and stuff like that.
Yeah. So like in that own kind of not blatantly saying so kind of way, they you could argue that they kind of addressed that. Um, one thing that I did mention before we started recording that I guess I will mention here is I only just noticed now, even though she's probably been wearing her hair like this the entire season, that Arya has started wearing her hair like Ned did. Which I guess is another one of those things of she takes more after her father in that kind of, a fighter aspect than she was ever going to take after her mother. Um,
Like a blend, yeah, like a blend between Ned and Lyanna.
mm, and also I thought it would have been nice, even though it would have been really subtle. Like I liked to think that when they were having that conversation, standing on that wall, Arya and Sansa, that when they mentioned the thing about the pack surviving, that for a brief moment, that Arya would have been thinking about Nymeria. And we're like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, she will be fine. She's got a pack. She's not alone, kind of a thing. Um, because
Meanwhile, Ghost is all alone. Who the hell knows where?
of course, for all we know, he might show up as a white.
Mm.
Which, ugh, I mean, that'd be a bit overkill considering. considering we've already got a dragon, but and giants and polar bears and God knows what else. Um, but yeah, I must admit when they did intercut the Bran stuff and the incest, I was laughing my ass off. I like it was
Hmm.
so funny to me. Like I don't think they necessarily intended it to be funny, but it was so funny to me that they're just intercutting the fact that, oh yeah, they're related. Like with them fucking. Like I'm pretty sure by the time they get to the end of that, he's got his dick in her. So like they are
Yeah.
actually fucking, and we're talking about the fact that and he's like the actual answer down through. I really hope it's gonna. I almost wonder if they're gonna do a thing where they'll wait an episode before actually bringing it up, or they'll generally be a lot of they want to bring it up, but when they see the fact that they're clearly developing a relationship now, if Brand's just gonna be like, you know what, fuck it.
Yeah, I really thought that they were going to be like in like postcoital cuddling or something when someone actually said it out loud, but they had to go that one step beyond to remind us this is still Game of Thrones.
Yeah. But yeah, that was fucking hilarious. I just couldn't. Though I guess the good thing about Sam, um, recalling that is I kind of wish he had brought up that Gilly had mentioned it. Um,
Hmm.
but I guess she was reading something that he had copied down, so it was probably a case of, oh shit, that thing Gilly said. But yeah, I do hope that like if someone like that they do kind of have a thing of even if it's just Sam saying, well, actually, Gilly's the one that kind of pointed it out because I wasn't really paying attention. um, but anyway, I think that's about all I've got to say for that. So we will go to the very last bit, which there isn't much to say, but I figure it should have been left on its own. I guess for context, we set up the last thing we see in Winterfell is Bran at the tree, and then see that he's scouting to see where shit's going down, and then we cut to the wall. So we will start with Maeve.
Okay, so that last scene was fucking amazing to start with. Um,
It wasn't ice.
yeah. Watching, them have that little moment just chatting, Beric Dondarrion and Tormund. I don't know why I forgot his name. He's been around since season 3. But are having that little sort of, it's sort of reminiscent of Tyrion's and Jon's conversation atop the wall in the first season, and then it's interrupted by just undead everywhere, and I was like, oh god, where's the dragon? Where's the dragon? And the dragon comes up, and seeing the Night King ride him was like both like terrifying and amazing at the same time. I was very excited for that scene. However, I have no clue if they had the balls to kill off Tormund and Dondarrion off screen. They may have not killed Dondarrion at all because they've already made it clear he has some sort of weird purpose.
Right.
And they almost killed Tormund on screen, so I don't think the eyes widening and panning out to the wall being completely deconstructed is a sure sign of death. But just like everyone cried out in relief when Daenerys crossed the Narrow Sea, everyone's gonna be like, "It's here!" They finally made the way beyond the wall, the thing that everyone's
Mhm.
scared of.
Mm.
So it has nowhere to go but up and more tense from here. I cannot wait to see what season 8 will bring. I just wish
Now,
that this was longer.
Yeah.
and
And
now the
they
wall is gone, and it's the Umbers and the Karstarks problem.
uh, okay, Bill.
Okay. It was a short scene. I think Maeve covered just about everything there. I agree. I don't think either of them are dead. I don't think Barrick. I think Barrick is going to die when he is restoring John from, I don't know, a blow from the Night King or something. I
Mm.
don't think he's going to die of natural causes, because that would kind of defeat the whole purpose of him being brought back 7 times.
Yeah.
Um, trying to think if anything else happened that you didn't mention, but yeah, I mean, it was just amazing to see, this undead dragon. People are asking, people are like, the real question is, how can it fly with holes in its wings? I'm like, yeah, kind of like, how can it fly with its heart not beating? Hello, have you do you grasp the concept of the undead? Like,
Yeah.
let's, those are,
Wizard did it.
Mm.
yeah, literally in this case.
Mm.
But yeah, I remember the first time I was watching it, and there was all the talk about whether it would become an ice dragon, and of course it's coming out blue. So I'm looking at it like, why are they blowing ice on the wall? And then they see the wall start to collapse. And I'm like, oh, that's not ice.
He really has become a blue eyes white dragon.
Yep, I am waiting for the fight between Blue Eyes White Dragon and Red Eyes Black Dragon.
uh,
But yeah, that's it for that specific scene, because it's not a scene that invites you to talk about it. It's a scene saying, hey, shit's breaking, let's get ready for next
yeah.
season.
Like the one thing that I had that I was thinking of the first time through watching it, I was like, so wait a minute. What was their plan to get through the wall if they didn't have the dragon then? Because to be honest, for a second I
Well,
forgot
maybe
about this.
that's why they were fucking around for a season.
Like I actually was thinking, okay, wait a minute. If their little sort of javelin things can take down a dragon, are they just gonna chuck a bunch of those at the wall and they'll explode and they'll take out the wall with it or something? Like I saw the fact that they were gonna take the wall down coming. I actually thought they were gonna take down the whole thing. Rather than just like a small section of it. But I guess it's a case of efficiency. It would have taken a while to take down the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah, they would have been sitting there for another season while
yeah,
Viserion was flying back and forth.
yeah. I mean, it even takes Viserion like a good minute or two just to actually blast enough through enough of it to make it collapse.
Yeah.
Um, but that's actually another thing that I like. There was no music. It was another case of them pulling the music away, and you hear like I didn't hear it the first time. I must have been like chatting or not paying enough attention. But you do actually hear the faint, not so much a roar, but you hear dragon noises or like flapping of wings in the distance, and then just shoots out of the darkness and just starts going at the wall, and it's like holy
Yeah.
shit. And there's like no music until like after Viserion starts wrecking shit. So it was like a good sort of tension builder. The one thing that I think shows that they're still alive, Tormund and Beric, is the fact that what I think they did was flip, or they're showing the side of the wall that they were on from the wrong direction. So it makes you think they were on the side that collapsed. But in actuality, you see like that guy running and then the wall just kind of collapses underneath him. I'm pretty sure they were like they're on the bit that's safe, but like just barely. So they're stuck up there, basically. They're gonna have to like go down the other end of the wall to like Castle Black just to get down. And I actually think, was it actually like the Umbers or the Karstarks castle that you see in the distance, or was that supposed to be Winterfell? Do you think? Because there was like a building of something in the distance that you could vaguely make out.
Oh, I'm not sure. I must not have been looking at that right part of the.
Like, and I was almost thinking, oh shit! Now they've got. Of course, that's a funny thing. If anyone's arguing about fast travel, if anyone argues about fast travel for the Whites and the White Walkers in this episode, I will call bullshit, because in the previous episode, it only took them like under a day to catch up to where the Whites and the White Walkers were. So the fact that they've gotten here by now with like a good couple of days, I'd say this episode took place over like at least 2 days. So they've had enough time to get to the wall, even at their slow pace. Well, that's the thing, they can run if they have to, so they probably ran a bit of the way and then just walked the rest of it. But it's also a case of, people are like, oh, well, they're taking their sweet time. Well, I mean, they're dead. They've got literally all the time they want.
Yeah, when you mentioned fast travel, I thought you were going to say something like they sat on their thumbs all season, and the next episode they're going to just skip straight to Winterfell.
Well, that's the interesting thing, is technically at least the Night King could, because now he's got a dragon.
He's on a dragon.
Oh yeah, because he can fly, but he can't exactly fly all the dragons over.
Right. I do. Something actually tells me that probably the opening of the next episode might be a bit like the opening of friggin' the Battle of the Five Armies in The Hobbit, where you just see a dragon just fucking wrecking shit on a town. So we might actually see like the Umbers and Karstarks, they're gone. They're probably just gonna. They might just destroy both of those castles. And if
especially
anyone
since
was
they're
there,
manned by children. Actually, they might not even go near Carhold, because that's very far east, like by the sea, farther east than Eastwatch. So if they're trying to, if they go along, for instance, the King's Road, they're not even going to go remotely close to Carhold. They're just going to be, have to deal with the Umbers, and then go to Winterfell.
Yeah, like I guess it depends on how they're gonna do it, because it's like, will they like fan out and kind of just not necessarily across the entire like continent, but are they just gonna like fan out to a point?
We're combing the land, sir.
Yeah,
they've all got these.
Because like
they've all got
gonna...
they've got.
Yeah.
You see whites with giant combs.
You joke. I would watch that.
What would you call a Spaceballs for like type Game of Thrones parody?
And try to channel Mel Brooks. Would be a game of something.
Well, here's what's interesting: the harbor that John and Danny are on their way to, Winterfell is halfway between that and the Wall. I don't think that's a coincidence.
No, it's not.
Sounds like they're going to have a fight at Winterfell.
Actually, now that I think about it, something that I forgot to mention, since I think I've said all I really can about that bit. The bit with Theon is something that I completely forgot to mention until now.
Oh,
but
me too.
I found that so funny that guy that was fighting him, for one, got like, I get that he's supposed to be kind of chubby or fat, but the fact that he got winded so quick kicking the shit out of Theon, but then that he went for the balls, it's like, he doesn't have any. You know that he had his cock and balls cut off.
And that's
so why would you go
one,
there?
I mean, as for getting winded, he's Ironborn, he might have been drunk. As for going for the balls, we knew that the other bit was lopped off, but I don't think we knew about the actual balls, because I actually remember, and specifically I was noticing that because I remember like a few days ago someone talking about the fact that, well, he's still growing his beard, so he still everything else was chopped off. I don't know if that's medically correct. That's just a comment that I saw.
Oh
This
yeah.
kind of implies that probably everything's chopped off.
Yeah. Yeah, like I guess I don't know if that would be a thing that would cause. I guess the other funny thing is the only examples that we have of eunuchs don't really have
The
much, if
Unsullied
any,
were all
hair.
prepubescent. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Unsullieds were all cut before puberty, so they never grew anything in. I don't think if
Hmm.
we know when Varys was cut.
I think he was a child.
Yeah, I think he was a kid as well. Or if not a kid, probably still like pre-teen at least, so still kind of a kid. But he definitely wasn't an adult when it happened. Um, uh, I guess the funny thing is the one thing you can argue is that unless he actually has something to protect down there, you could still argue the fact that that would be that he had something cut off and then sewn up, that would still be a sensitive area. Just obviously nowhere near as sensitive as if he actually had balls to get kicked in.
Right.
So, but I do kind of love how like even Theon's like, huh, dumbass, and just like gets this
Yes.
kind of old Theon grin on his face, and it just headbutts the holy shit out of the dude, and then just
Right.
wails
Yeah.
on him. Um, and yeah, now they're off to, and of course now we know the context of that bit where Theon fell onto the sand, um, in the next time trailer. um, I thought that was him
Okay.
showing up on the Iron Islands.
I've
It's him about to leave for the Iron Islands.
I've finally found a response from someone who seems to have a valid source and knows what they're talking about, which most people on the internet, shocking, don't. Um,
What?
but once you're post-pubescent, removal, an orchiectomy, or castration is not likely to affect facial hair. So yeah,
Okay.
we can assume that he lost everything around the same.
Hmm. Um. So yeah. Uh. Yeah. I think that's all I had for the Theon bit. It was just like it was. It's interesting that I think he's finally throwing Reek aside, and it's interesting that all it took was a conversation with John where someone wasn't telling him to man up necessarily. John was kind of
Yeah.
like, "Well, you know what you've got to do. What are you
And
still doing
it
here?"
was that, and it was partially helping to alleviate the guilt. He was saying, "No,
Yeah,
you're still a Stark, you're still a Greyjoy, and for what I can, I forgive you." And that, I think, remove of his psychological burden, would finally start his identity,
yeah,
or
Yeah.
coming into his identity.
yeah.
Now, of
Um.
course, if Arya and Sansa will be as forgiving, it's another question.
Well, I mean, we did have the only fact that John initially didn't kill him was that he
Yeah,
helped save
that's true. Yeah, so Sansa
Sansa.
Yeah.
might be okay with him.
Yeah,
I could see Arya holding the Valyrian dagger up to his stops her.
yeah. Like it'll either be both Sansa and John, or at least one of them. They'll be like, hey, he's fine now. We're
Be
trying to,
cool.
yeah. Or at least I could see like Sansa telling her to back off, and it actually being John be the one that makes her back off.
He he
Yeah.
he he only killed secondary characters. It's okay.
Especially since Bran is actually alive, and like Ramsay was
Right.
the one who actually killed
No,
Rickon.
oh no, I
So
was I was thinking of, and I mean, he's not the actual person who killed these either, but his actions led directly to the deaths of, was it Maester Lewin was the old one at
yeah,
Winterfell? I
Maester
forget all
Lewin.
the
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maester names. Maester
And Sir
Lewin
Roderick.
and Sir Roderick. Yep.
yeah. Well, yeah, he did actually kill Roderick. Yeah, but Lewin was the Iron Islanders. And I guess he probably but yeah. So unless you guys had any other thoughts on that, I guess we could probably go
Um,
into.
I actually an observation about the John conversation. So it's revealed that John is a legitimate Targaryen this season. So even though John doesn't know, but the stuff he said about Theon being of two houses, the one he was born into and the one that he was raised by, him still being a Stark and Ned still being a part of him, he's gonna have to make that realization about himself for himself when when the truth of his identity is finally revealed to him. So I think that's a nice foreshadowing.
Yeah. Yeah, that aside, it's so funny. I did have a question I want to ask, and I think it was leading a part of the predictions that I had. But now I completely forgot it, so I haven't really got anything.
Oh, sorry.
I do have a generic comment that is not a prediction, but it's something related to all the plots in this episode. I'm pretty sure that except for the scene at the wall, Ned Stark is a heavy part of every single subplot in this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Sean Bean appears once, but you can't go 10 minutes without Ned being brought up.
No. It's amazing.
Actually, I think this is at least something I think I wanted to ask as far as predictions go for season 8. How many dragons do we think will be left by the time the War of the Two Queens starts up again?
I think that is dependent on who all dies. I mean, I think obviously Viserion is going to go down for good. I mean, Rhaegal and Drogon are both named for people who are dead. I don't know if that's foreshadowing in the same way as Viserion's name. But I think if Jon and Dany both survive, either we're going to have Ghost and Drogon around, or we're going to have both dragons and with or without Ghost.
Yeah. The funny thing is, it is at the point where I could honestly see, just so I feel like if they do kill both dragons off,
There'll be an egg.
If they did, it would be a case of them both dying, taking out Viserion. Sort of, even not necessarily dying immediately, just dying and then dying of battle wounds. I could the only reason I could see them doing that is to try and do oh shit, the one major advantage Daenerys had is now completely out of play, rather than only partially. So it would go from her having, oh, I can just mow through these people with my dragons, to, oh fuck, I actually have to think about this shit now.
Yeah.
But I could definitely at least see Rhaegal going down, leaving us with only Drogon. But I guess if they did want to go with, because if all of them are dead by the end of season 8, then then I could probably see Drogon surviving through until someone getting a lucky shot as they're attacking King's Landing or something. But Dany probably ultimately winning, but at the cost of all of 3 of her dragons or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise, it's I guess that's the interesting thing, because we don't have anything to go by. It is very much anything goes at this point.
Yeah, no.
I
I don't think they'll have the balls to kill off Drogon personally. They seem to have calmed down with their desire to kill people.
Mm.
Uh, but I definitely think that she'll be down to one dragon. A nice twist would be
Mhm.
that Drogon ultimately dies and she's left with Rhaegal.
Mm.
But I think it'll be
Here's what I think is if Dany finds herself in the possession of a dragon egg, that will mean that Drogon is going to sacrifice himself to take down Viserion.
Mm.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah, like yeah, it's really up to interpretation at this point. I guess. Oh, what's another thing? Okay, here's one thing, because in season 8 we're gonna have a shitload of deaths. I think the main reason the only real major death we get this season is Littlefinger is just because it's a case of they probably wanted a break from that just so we could have like yeah, I think we've only had maybe 2 deaths that are kind of notable. I forget if we had a oh yeah, Thoros and Littlefinger are the
Thoros,
only
yeah.
2 named characters that we're supposed to care about that I think have died this entire season. Um
Olenna.
Right.
I forgot about her.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and do we count?
Well, yeah, Alaria I'm
oh,
not too sure about because there's always
I
the
was gonna say
potential
yeah,
that
Tyene should be
Tyene,
dead.
yeah, Tyene's
Eh,
Yeah.
and
I
her,
don't know
I
how much
guess,
we care
and
about
the
her.
the Sand Snakes in
Oh yeah,
general, I
and the
guess.
Sand Snakes. Yep.
So it's weird because we've had a lot, but they're also mainly supporting characters. So they've been major, but like ultimately not really.
Yeah, at this
Um,
rate,
Yeah.
next season you're going to have to kill like a Stark or a Lannister every episode to catch up.
pretty much. But
Be-
like that is the thing. Like season 8 is just gonna like be all like off limits. It doesn't matter. Like pretty much, like there are going to have to be main character deaths,
Speaking
and
of killing Lannisters, are we really meant to believe that Kevin and Lancel were the only members of their branch of the family?
at least in the show, I guess so.
Then again, they
Yeah.
want us to conveniently forget Lannisport exists. So
Well, I guess at the same time, um, well, yeah, like the idea is that Cersei keeps saying the only 2 Lannisters that matter that are left are her and Jaime.
Yeah.
So it might not. So it's not necessarily that there are no other major whatever Lannisters left, but like in their eyes, because they're from the branch of the family that was in charge of the house, they were like the only 2 Lannisters left that mattered. So there probably are like other minor, well, minor in the show's eyes anyway, Lannisters
Mm.
that are there that are now gone or doing whatever. I mean, did Kevin actually die, or is he just kind of off somewhere? Because I recall he was offered a position on
I think he
something,
might
and
have
then
been in the Great Sept of Baelor in the season 5, 6. Which when was that again? It was at the season 6 finale.
finale or um, God, it was either the finale or like the episode 9. Um, I can't entirely remember. It wouldn't surprise me if it had been the finale, but yeah, it was generally
Oh, yeah, I
close
think
to
it
the
was the
end.
finale because then she was crowned in the final scene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, like it wouldn't surprise me if it's just another one of those logistics things where they're like, well, we can't have an insane amount running around, so um, they just haven't really bothered to mention any others just because they in the scope of the story they don't ultimately matter if there are any. And I guess the funny thing is if there were any they probably would have all fled to King's Landing anyway to get away from Daenerys.
Yeah.
What,
uh,
Daenerys is more interested in King's Landing than Lannisport.
I guess so, but well, yeah, I get
I
hell.
think
They
they
might
just
have even
wanted to
gone to High
streamline it.
Garden, I guess. In any case, I also kind of think that as far as a prediction goes, I think Jamie is going to die fighting alongside John and the crew in the north. Because
Yeah.
I think part of why he's going to die that way is because he wants to go out honorably. He doesn't want to go
Mm.
So,
out. He
so
doesn't want to go out like cowering in the south as all this shit's going on. He's like, I have a way to have an honorable death. I'm gonna take
So you
it.
think that the theory that he's going to die in some way related to the death of Cersei is not going to happen?
Probably not. Like I could still see it happening, but I could also see him dying, and maybe his death. In retrospect, she's like maybe gets a raven about it, and then just goes absolutely insane.
Hmm.
um, I could
Hate
like
to
I
see
could
what
see
that would
it.
be like.
Yeah. I guess the other thing is she doesn't have long hair, so they can't really go with it being all mangled and shit as well. Because she just stops giving a shit about how neat it looks.
We get one of those montages where she's like tearing the sleeves off of everything she owns.
uh, um, but yeah, like I almost do wonder, but I guess it also depends on which direction he went in, because to me it looked like it was probably going north, but we don't. There wasn't. I didn't really see any like kind of reference that would have given us like location wise that really could have given us a decent reference to which way he was going, but I do think he was going north. So it wouldn't
He
surprise
said he
me.
was going north.
Mm, yeah. Um, I guess it's a matter of like which direction he takes, because I guess this is one of those things where
Mm-hmm.
if it was a longer season, this probably still would have happened this
Yeah.
way, and then we wouldn't have heard from him until season 8. But at the same time, it would have given him enough time to get there.
Maybe he'll
Mhm.
remember. Maybe Edmure will remember to exist while Jamie is running through the Riverland.
I could see that happening. I mean, it did occur to me like I only realized the second time through. I think the first time through, I was like, wait a minute, why is he dressed like that? He looks like he's. You'd think he'd like wear his like something more expensive looking. And then the second time through, I'm like, oh wait, that's why, because he wants to go mainly unnoticed.
Yeah.
He probably should have worn like a hood or something, but you know. I guess people up there probably haven't
I'm
seen
not.
him.
I'm picturing him in a medieval hoodie.
um, but yeah, like I could see that happening. Him running into people on his way up. But at the same time, considering the breakneck speed some of this stuff is happening at, I could also see him just kind of episode 1 or episode 2 of season 8 just kind of showing up at Winterfell. And them just saying that there's been like a week or two time skip.
Well, if he shows up before Tyrion, he might not last very long.
Mm, yeah.
But I
Yeah,
guess
that's
it
why.
also depends on what route Brienne takes.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess that's the interesting thing. If he's going on horse, so he's gonna run into it, depending on how quick he goes, because he seemed to be going at a fairly leisurely pace at first. I do kind of wonder if he will run into the armies that are heading that way, because he won't run into the Dothraki because they'll get there quicker because they're on horseback. But you kind of wonder if he'll run into the Unsullied at all or something, because they'll just be marching fairly like leisurely pace, I would assume. Unless they actually do like run for a bit. Because you can. Oh no, wait, no. The Unsullied are going by ship. That's right. It was the Dothraki are going by land because they can just ride there, and
And everyone else is going by ship.
yeah, which is honestly going to be funny if the Dothraki show up first, because the Northerners are going to be like, "What the fuck is this shit?" Who are
God,
these?
I'm just. The Riverlands hasn't been through enough shit. Now they're going to have a horde of Dothraki just riding through leaderless.
That
Sure,
is
that's going to go well.
And of course, I do wonder if they gave the Dothraki like some warm clothing, because as we like one of the final shots we see of Jaime is that it's starting to snow everywhere in
yeah,
Westeros now. Like winter has finally,
has come south.
has finally come south.
Well, you
So
see, when it's warm, the Dothraki ride their horse. When it's cold, they wear the horse. At least I could see them going with that sort of logic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. That's all I really have. Did either of you have anything else to add, whether it was predictions or otherwise?
Okay, so my prediction is I'm kind of thinking that in order to, because especially with John being an honorable dude and such, and he knows the North is probably not happy with him right now. He's probably going to want to make his what's going on with him and Daenerys as official and above board as possible. And there's quite a few weirwood trees, I would think, between White Harbor and Winterfell. So, and they're not exact. Neither one of them are of the Faith of the Seven. They don't need to wait for a Septon to show up. So I'm kind of wondering if there's going to be an impromptu marriage ceremony. Sometime in the first 2 episodes before running into Sam.
That would definitely be pretty funny. Especially because, as I said earlier, it's a matter of will Bran and Sam say anything once they see. Will it be a case of seeing them together like that will force their hand? Is like, okay, we should probably say something before this goes too far, even though it already has. Or if I actually kind of like that's going to be a hilarious scene. I really hope that does happen and they don't just go like, "Oh, screw it, we'll just leave it."
I have a feeling Sam is going to try to be really tactful, and then Bran is going to be like, "You're related."
Yeah, yeah. So like,
Yes.
yeah, Sam will like skirt around the issue, and then Bran will just be like, "Oh yeah, she's your aunt," and so. Of course, it'll be funny to see how they react, and it's like whether they give a shit or not. um,
I'm wondering if Gendry is going to be is at the wall right now for one thing, and otherwise, if not, where he is. Also wondering where Pod and Bronn went.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I would assume Podrick went back with Brienne, even though we don't see him after that. But yeah. Of course, that's the interesting thing. Bronn didn't see the white, so he's
Right.
one of the few people that will not have any context for that whole scenario. So once he eventually finds out, he's probably gonna like, you know, he
Yeah,
might
I
just
could just
flat out be like,
imagine his reaction when he realizes all of the crazy shit lords that he believe it.
mm,
He'll be like, Brienne has seen it, Jaime has seen it, Tyrion's seen it.
yeah, he'll probably just be like, okay, fuck this, and just piss off to Essos or something.
Then again, if he's seen the mountain, he's probably at this point kind of a whatever, that's Westeros for you mood.
I guess so, yeah. Or it'd be like he'll wait for the problem to actually show up, and then he'll be like, okay, yeah, now that it's getting closer, I'm gonna piss off.
Or if he's going to come to a full character arc and be like, okay, nobody's going to pay me to kill the others, but I'm going to do it anyway.
It would be interesting. Like, I could see potentially something.
If he saves Tyrion from an other.
I was thinking it'd either be something like that, because maybe...
Or from a white.
Actually, yeah. Exactly where is Bronn, like... Is he necessarily based out of King's Landing, or just somewhere around King's Landing?
I mean, he's still waiting for them to give him a castle, and until then, he's been sticking close to Jaime.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, will he actually go after him, or is Jaime like trying to find where he buggered off to, maybe? And
I think he'll try to catch up with Jaime, but I'm wondering if he'll end up riding with like Brienne and Pod or something. Or if like he and Podrick will be out somewhere and like some random shit will happen before Pod's able to go back to Brienne.
So yeah. Did anyone have anything else to say, or?
Just a comment that I'm still one of the many people in the camp that thinks that Jaime is going to ultimately have a death connected with Cersei. I don't think he's the Valonqar anymore, but I still think that there'll be something like he, despite wanting to be honorable this time around, I think he'll wind up being the mad royal slayer for noble reasons again, and this time he will die in the process.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see, like, and I guess if anything, it's nice that the way they're setting it up, there are multiple ways that it's getting to that point where there are multiple ways that you could see him dying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. I'd say that's all we've got. So, thank you everyone for listening to this. This has been going for almost an hour and a half, which just shows how much there really was to talk about in this episode. Because God knows I don't want to condense people's thoughts. If you liked it, give us a like. Throw the link around to get the word out. That'd be great. Only if you want to, of course. And that is it for season 7 of Game of Thrones. So, schedules permitting, and all that, and hopefully no one gets sick or anything like that, we will next week be going back to the beginning and talking about the first episode ever of Game of Thrones, and from then on, for the next 60 weeks or so, we will be talking about every episode that we have yet to cover in this format. So, episode 1 of season 1 to episode 10 of season 6. So, yeah, we're in this for the long haul.
It will be interesting rewatching everything with this season of context behind it.
Yeah. So that's it for us this week. I'm Thomas Fireheart. I've been joined by Maeve Lefay and Bill Sylvia, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
See you then.